Welcome. Today's project's on recognizing the signs and symptoms of a health anxiety sufferer. This is important because when you can recognize what you do on a daily basis, those habits that only support your anxious identity, you can start to change those habits and start to move towards that ideal you. That you that's more neutral in your emotions. That you that's more of a social butterfly. That you who wants to travel the world and see new places and get out into the unknown. But one of the first steps is to recognize the habits that you do daily that only support your anxious identity. Now, when I used to suffer from health anxiety, I didn't even know I had health anxiety. I thought I had an illness unique to me. And when I say unique to me, I mean I went to the doctor, I got checked, I got my blood checked, I got my urine checked, and I went multiple times because the doctor told me, Brad, there isn't anything wrong with you. I checked all your tests. But internally, I felt like there was something wrong, that she missed something. I felt like I needed to do more tests in order to figure out what this thing I had was. I came home from the doctor, the symptom came back, the pain came back, and I didn't know what it was. So I thought that, if my doctor couldn't detect it and the other doctor couldn't detect it, because I went to multiple doctors, I thought I had something unique to me. And health anxiety sufferers think that they have something unique to them when this happens. So when we can recognize the signs that you are in fact suffering from health anxiety specifically, this label can be a good thing. And it's better to label yourself as someone with health anxiety other than somebody who has a unique illness specific to them. Because if you label yourself with health anxiety, well, health anxiety is curable because multiple people have cured themselves of health anxiety, including myself. So knowing that information is huge to a health anxiety sufferer because they know now that it is possible to change and that it isn't in fact a serious illness. It's actually a natural bodily response caused by the fight, flight, or freeze response. This response is active, causing all of these bodily sensations, making it seem that you have an illness, but in fact, all that adrenaline, all that cortisol is being pumped through your body and you're experiencing a natural bodily response. All right, so I'm going to get into the 5 signs you have health anxiety. Number 5, advertisements, TV programs, or people around you talk about a health issue and you suddenly perk up and become startled. That's the 5th sign. You become startled when some external element, person, TV program, billboard, whatever it is, talks about a specific health issue and you become immediately flushed with all of those anxiety sensations. And so what's happening? Well, you already believe that you have a physical illness. You don't feel well. You have pains and that won't go away. You have a headache that you believe to be a brain tumor, whatever it is. You're already looking out for the worst case scenario. You're filtering in all of this information and you're only holding on to the ones that support your already anxious identity. And the good information, the information doctors are telling you, you're okay, we checked your test, all these rational thoughts, you don't hold on to those because those don't support your anxious identity. You're only holding on to, the negative aspects around you. You're watching TV and a commercial comes on and it's about somebody dying of a certain illness. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that could be me. I probably have that. And so it's good to recognize this habit because it's a very common habit and one that I did when I went through health anxiety. It could be a bus billboard. It could be in a magazine. I immediately would be concerned over the article in the newspaper or the advertisement, and those thoughts would snowball. Those catastrophic thoughts just snowball and make my anxiety worse. So you filter out all the good information and you bring in all of the bad information that only supports your identity. Number 4, you jump to conclusions. You jump to conclusions. That pain in my side has to be a disease. That headache has to be a brain tumor. It won't go away. So the recovery process is all about opening up your mind to new possibilities, doing the research. That's why you're here watching this video. You're opening your mind as we speak to, wait a second, it's not a real illness? That it's in fact the fight, flight, or freeze response? That opens up your narrow mind. Your narrow mind is not becoming so narrow anymore. It's branching off. And so when you start to read books, when you start to listen to productive podcasts about anxiety, you start to change your thinking patterns. You start to open up to the new possibilities, and the change occurs. And so when you jump to conclusions, you're fortune telling that, oh no, I'm going to die from this specific illness. I know it's a brain tumor. I know it's kidney disease. I went to the doctor. The doctor says I'm fine, but it's still there. So it must be that. And when you Google your symptoms, what happens? Well, it's usually the worst case scenario. You're not going to look at the minor scenarios. Oh, you're not drinking enough water. Oh, it could be digestive issues. Oh, it could be stress. Whatever it is. You're not looking for those minor issues. You're seeing the most catastrophic problems Google's offering you. And why? Like I said before, that mental filter. You're filtering in all the bad information and you're filtering out the good information, right? You're not paying attention to that good information, the other possibilities. You're filtering the worst case scenario from Google. So you're jumping to the worst case scenario. And this is so common with a health anxiety sufferer. Number 3 is irrational labels. This pain in my side, it's a kidney disease. And when you talk to other people about it, that, I have this illness, it only strengthens your belief of that specific illness. And when you give yourself a label, when you say, I'm unhealthy, I have anxiety, I have mental issues, I'm dying of this certain disease, you only act out the part of that victim. You're acting it out. You're going to slouch. You're going to go to the doctors constantly. You're going to be on Dr. Google all the time. And so you're just going to play the part. So to counter this, ask yourself, could there be another reason for this pain or whatever sensation it is? Could there be another reason for this headache? And then you'll come up with the answers in your head. Could be because I'm not drinking enough water. Could be I'm not eating the right foods. Could be stress. I'm overly stressed. Yeah, stress could cause this. Stress causes a lot of bodily sensations. Anxiety causes a lot of bodily sensations. So incorporating more rational thoughts changes the neural pathways in your brain, changing your identity. Number 2, you talk about your illness constantly. You're constantly talking to other people about what you have. Oh, I have this kidney disease. I have this brain tumor. It's probably a brain tumor. I don't feel well today. I feel sick. And you're constantly talking about all of the negatives about how you feel to other people all the time. This only supports your anxious identity. The more emotion you give towards that illness, that headache, that pain in your side, what happens? You're only going to keep that sensation alive. Because what happens? You stress about the illness, and that stress causes more stress. And what happens when your anxiety rises? Well, more cortisol, more adrenaline, and thus the sensation is going to keep on being present because you're only looping the cycle. You're anxious about the sensation, thus causing your anxiety to remain present and thus keeping the sensation alive. So when you speak to other people about your illness, what's happening? You're only ingraining that label you're giving yourself. You're only ingraining those beliefs. Number 1 is you spend too much time at home. You spend too much time in your safe area. What happens when you're in your safe area? Well, you feel safe. The outside world is scary, but I'm in a place where I feel secure. And what happens? Well, you're only strengthening that fear response, that neural pathway that's only making you fear the outside world even more. The more time you ignore and push away the snakes and you push them under the rug, so to speak, the more you ignore the outside world, those situations, the more you only fear those situations. Now, when you continually ignore those fearful situations, you're only going to support your belief that as long as I'm in my safe zone, nothing can harm me. And anxiety sufferers and health anxiety sufferers fear going out into the outside world, having a heart attack in public, embarrassing themselves while they do it, and not having any family or emergency personnel close by to help them. So they stay home. But it's about gradually exposing yourself to the fears that only contribute to your beliefs of your identity, right? Your beliefs of, if I stay home, then I'm okay. And so what happens when you venture out into the outside world? You become stronger. And what happens when you survive a panic attack at the shopping mall or wherever you are? Well, you start to stimulate new neuronal pathways in the brain. And what happens? Well, You become braver. That's important. You become braver. You're proving your old self wrong. Those new pathways that are stimulating, they are supporting this new identity that you can actually do it. You can go to the mall and actually survive all those sensations that are awful, they're unpleasant, but you can survive them. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Remember, do not let anxiety define who you are, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.